Hello, and welcome to this week's Top 25 LOL Esports Power Rankings, where I cover the top 25 teams in LOL Esports. I moved the mic back a little bit, so you might turn the volume up compared to my other content. So, this week is a little different. There are 41 teams, 41 teams still playing, 40 teams still eligible for MSI in the world, across major and minor regions. 17 of those teams are major region teams. So, at minimum, 8 minor region teams would appear on this list. At minimum. Or 7. 17 and 8 or 18 and 7, I forget which. But you're getting my point, right? So, because there's so little major region teams, I am going to rely on the algorithm to try and place these minor region teams. I do not watch the minor regions play. I only watch major regions play. I use the algorithm to try and determine who the best minor region teams are. There's a video on my channel, went up about a month ago maybe, where I went over this a little more in depth, if you'd like to check that out. So when you see a lot of minor region teams up here, that's going to be why. We have to give them their respect based on how they've performed internationally before. So, 25th is SBTC Esports. I'm not going to do the plus minus or whatever, we're just going to go over this. So, they're 8-4. Technically second in the standings in the VCS. They beat Saigon Buffalo. They beat MBE Esports this past week. MGN Box Esports, whatever the hell their name is. They're the team that's the 41st team. They are so bad that they're still eligible to play, but they're eliminated from the playoffs, so they're out. But this is a stream team that somehow is putting up decent numbers in the VCS standings-wise, but not necessarily algorithm-wise, because you're going to find that there's a few VCS teams ahead of them in the standings. 24th, Team Flash. Team Flash has appeared in the top 25 before this split. They, algorithm and stats-wise, are very strong. They throw a lot of series. They beat Team Secret this past week, lost to Saigon Buffalo. Team Flash, I do not expect to be at MSI, but at the same time, if somehow, some way they had figured out how to close out games this split, these records would be swapped in terms of 8-4 and 4-8, and Team Flash arguably would have been much higher on the list because the stats would have been stronger. 23rd is Frank Esports from the PCS. They are 12-6. In the playoffs, they beat Deep Cross Gaming in the last week. Last Thursday, they lost to CFO. Since then, they have beaten Deep Cross Gaming in a best of 5 to end up appearing on this list. Deep Cross Gaming has Hanabi. We know who Hanabi is, former PSG top laner. Frank Esports has Solo Kill, who we recognize if you are an LPL aficionado. They have a couple other really good players as well. 22nd is Cerberus Esports from Vietnam. Cerberus Esports and the next team, Team Wales, played each other. And Team Wales came out ahead. They have BA at support. BA has performed exceptionally well. If you missed my videos on Thursdays, I go over my top 10 minor region teams by themselves. And BA has been their star a couple times this season. Coming off of his MVP split last year with GAM. These teams are no joke. We've seen the VCS perform internationally. You know, some people might say, hey, how can you have, Team Wales above Koi or this or that? And I think to myself, Saigon Buffalo took a game off of G2 last MSI. And then some people may say, well, that doesn't matter. Well, I guess we can wash out G2's win against T1 too, right? Like, those don't matter. Like, I know that G2 ends up losing to T1 in the end at MSI, obviously. But, I think it's just something to note that these teams can be competitive against major region teams. So we have to give them some respect. Speaking of that, 20th, DFM. DFM of Japan. They took a game off of RNG last Worlds. They took a game off of EG. They were competitive at MSI. They are a good team. Toll 2 in top lane has replaced Evie and honestly done a decent job. 12-2, they have not played the last week, but that's where they stand. Next, in 19th, we have Fnatic. 4-5. They did not play. Obviously, a week off for the European team, so we're just going to kind of slot them in here. Mad 18th, 17th SK, and 16th Astralis. And you may say to yourself, why are there 4 straight LEC teams? And you have to think to yourself, SK and Mad are probably better than Astralis. If you were, I use this to determine, if you were to legally even odds gamble, well, not gamble, but bet on these 4 teams to do anything, you're going to bet on SK and Mad based off of last split, right? Despite Astralis doing very well, Astralis went 6-3 this past split, best of ones, right? But in winter, SK looked really good in best of 3 situation, and they were competitive in best of 5. Mad Lions obviously going on a great run in the best of 5s. Fnatic doing nothing in winter. So, like, I don't know. You know, betting on these 4 teams, which one was going to succeed at even odds, I don't think many people can say 100% without a doubt which of these 4 teams is going to be the 3rd best team on paper. Well, 3rd or 4th, we're going to get to that in the LEC. So keep that in mind. That's why they're 4. Astralis 6-3, SK 4-5, Mad 3-6, Fnatic 4-5. I do still think Mad is better than Fnatic. Yeah. Despite their struggles. 15th is GAM. I could argue that GAM should be even higher on this list. GAM, #1 team in Vietnam, took a game off of top last year at Worlds. I mention it every time I talk about them because everybody says it's the bug. Well, GAM were in the position to win off of that. So I think that that's something to note. They were not getting blown out, and somehow the bug changed the game. They beat Team Secret this past week. GAM 11-0. It's funny, like last year, my algorithm was different. It was very, very kill oriented. This time it's more gold oriented, with obviously kills and objectives and things like that. But gold is a bigger part. And last year, GAM graded out at like 12th in the world pretty much all year long with how dominant they were. And this time around, they're sitting around here, and I move them up myself because I think GAM are better than what their stats indicate. But it is just interesting to just think about. 14th is PSG. PSG Talent, 15-3, beat Impunity this past week in a reverse sweep, which is a bit ugly given that they should be better than that. You know, Junjia in the jungle. If you're an LPL fan, you've seen Junjia before. You've seen Yubao in mid lane. I think Yubao's are... Oh, geez, am I messing up? Uniboy. Yubao is Uniboy, but I'm trying to think. I think he's on PSG. You know, PSG doing work. Just doing what PSG does. And we've seen this. Old Flash Wolves, PSG. Now, this organization has always been at a high level. Like, for years, right? You can't take PSG for granted. They do go on runs at international events and surprise. Speaking of PSG, we have 2 former PSG players on this team. Golden Guardians. River Gory jungle mid duo is nasty. Reminiscent of the PSG teams of old. I think that Golden Guardians are a pretty damn good team. Despite the 9-9 record, Stixay and Huhi are able to handle it in bot lane and not int, and then somehow come away with like great KDAs like don't die, mid to late game show up and succeed. Let River and Gory get us there, and then we help in closing it out. Licorice, similar thing in top lane. 12th is BDS. Despite BDS being first in the LEC on paper, I really struggle with believing in BDS. Only because I think that their mid to late game is still messy. I'd argue that SK and Mad Lions probably have better mid to late games. So I need BDS to continue to prove to me, I guess, that they can macro their way to wins when they should consistently. I think Adam, just when I compare these 2 teams, I just think BDS are Adam's much better than Licorice in the bot lane situation. Crowny is much better than Stixay and Huhi and Lebrav and all that. Mid jungle duo is a thing though, so we got to keep that in mind. Sheo and Nuke, I really am unsure about. And Sheo's a rookie, so he has room to grow. But Nuke's been around a little bit now, so this, improvement is definitely a surprise. Let me just make sure I'm not unplugging this here. I am not. Had to make sure I was stepping on the adapter for the battery. 11th is FlyQuest. FlyQuest, obviously. Oh, by the way, Golden Guardians BDG 3-0. So that's why they're 13th as well. Like, that's a pretty big win, right? FlyQuest lost to C9 3-0. Why didn't I drop them farther? Well, there are less teams. So why am I'm not dropping Vikla and Prince below Nuke and Crowny. Not to say Crowny can't compete with Prince, but I'm going to give Vikla the edge over Nuke. And I'm going to give Spica the edge over Sheo. Impact and Adam probably goes to Adam, but I think the point remains, these teams are all kind of close. You got to kind of take it for what it is. Flyer's still really good. I could see them losing to Golden Guardians, though. I mean, I've said this. I looked back, actually. After they lost, I said this. I looked back at what I said before the split started, and I said FlyQuest, we're probably not going to win spring. So, them not winning spring is not a shock to me. This is my most successful video series, so I want to just emphasize that, because some people probably be like, but you had Fly way up here and this and that. And it's like, yeah, that's how they're performing, but when push comes to shove in the playoffs, C9 are here. 10th, Vitality. Similar to Fly, Vitality are much better than their record indicates and what they put out on the Rift. Sometimes Vitality just looks like a pile of crap out there. 6-3. Bo leaves a lot to be desired based on, the hype he gets. I think that he's been, more often than not, Bo does his job at a high level. But there are games where Bo just doesn't show up. Last split, Bo did that. Bo did not take over like he was supposed to. Or is, advertised. Photon, I think, is starting to get a little mentally drained by all this crap because he's not quite performing as he did in winter towards the end. Upset has not made the team outright better record-wise. Technically, they're worse than winter. Despite us all knowing Upset's better than Neon. So, an interesting situation with Vitality, to say the very least. 9th is C9. C9 obviously beating FlyQuest. They're 14-4. The issue with double Elim, and I say it when I made a video about it. C9 are the winners. They're going to MSI, so I guess in the end, it's good to be here. But they won't get a second chance at winning if they were to lose finals and say Fly beats Golden Guardians, Fly plays C9, Fly beats C9, Fly gets first, and they win spring, but C9 actually had beaten Fly. So, who's actually better, Fly or C9? In my opinion, this is the problem with double Elim. Because now, it's a wash. Who is better, C9 or Fly? Well, people are going to say Fly because Fly won spring, but Fly also lost to C9. So, and not only that, say if Fly wins 3-2 against C9 in the finals, and C9 had swept Fly, C9's, win over Fly was stronger, right? So, just, my fundamental problem with double Elim is that scenario, which I could see happening. C9, though, very good. Berserker smoked Prince. Berserker showed up. Prince, not really anywhere to be found. Game 1 and Game 2. Game 3, tried really hard and died a lot, and people are going to say he inted. I think he just felt a lot of pressure and tried to perform at a level that was not going to work for anybody. So, C9 looking really good in 9th. Last Western team is G2, 8th, and then you're going to think to yourself, wow, you really think all the LPL and LCK teams are better? Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. So, G2, 6-3, 8th. What happens in spring stays in spring. I don't care what G2 do because they were locked into MSI already. They could have went 0-9, and I would still have them in the 8th to probably 12th range because they were locked. So 7th, EDG, 13-3. They have not played. They're dropping a couple spots because they haven't played, and that means that it's the hype, right? It's the hype train of the other teams. And it's like, oh, well, we haven't seen EDG lately, so let's remember why we don't like EDG, or, well, not like, but what do we have? Drawbacks for EDG that, like, still have to be proven versus OMG, BLG, who have played and maybe answered those questions, right? So EDG 7th. JJ was one of my top 3 junglers in my LPL All-Pro teams. Ale in top lane, and then Mako arguably could have won MVP in my opinion. So EDG very, very good, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, though, there are question marks. Can Leaf perform in the big moment? How does Fofo look against these very good mid laners in a big moment? Because I think Fofo is I think is a question mark. 6th, OMG. And 5th, BLG. So I'm including these two teams at the same time because we're seeing OMG beat BLG towards the end of the split, which got OMG above BLG. The records are both 10-6. Now, I'm flipping it back to BLG over OMG, and you're going to say why. OMG beat Top Esports. That was a win that I didn't expect. They beat LNG this morning. I certainly did not expect that. So OMG are playing at a very high level. Cream. Aki's playing a lot better than I expected. Shanji is really doing work, and Abel and PP got her looking good. So it's like, when I'm comparing BLG and OMG, OMG on paper does not have as strong of players, which is a weird thing to say. Shanji and Bin, I would consider, both in my top 5 top laners in the world. Actually, the top 5, well, let's see, so 5 out of the 6 teams in the top 6 probably have the 5 best top laners in the world right now. Yeah. So, when we have Bin and Shanji, I'm going to take Bin because I don't hide the fact that I really think Bin is a cracked player. So, comparing them, I like Bin. Jungle, Shun, Aki. Shun, more of a carry. Aki is showing up in a big way now all of a sudden. Some people may have been on this hype train for a while. I kind of stayed off of it. I didn't like his EDG and Weibo series. If you look at that towards the end of the split, the stats even do not indicate that he did well, right? And we watched the games in addition to that. But nevertheless, so BLG gets the edge there. Mid lane, Cream probably over Yagao, but both have the same problem, but differently. BLG, Yagao, I think, has a champion puddle. Cream has a champion puddle. Cream is 4 years younger, I think, than Yagao, in a very different puddle. We got one puddle over here that is more control mage oriented. And then we have Cream, which is like AD mids. Like we got Yone, we got Tristana, we got Silas is not AD, neither is Akali, but you get my point, more melee AD oriented. Where Yagao, very different. So, that's going on. And then in bot lane, Elk and On versus Abel and PP God. I'm giving Elk the edge there. I think Elk is very good. He's one of my favorite bot laners, probably. I think before I started making content, I really was an Elk fan, and Elk kind of fell off to me in Ultra Prime, which was unfortunate for him. I think I may have said it in some videos that I was fond of Elk, but I thought Ultra Prime was holding him back. And now he's able to perform at a high level. So I'm giving that edge to BLG. 4th is GenG, who lost to T1. And then KT. And you'll say to yourself, wow, you swapped them back. And last week I said in the Discord, I felt like I did not explain very well why GenG was above KT. And I thought about it more and I said, you know what? Maybe I made a mistake. KT did go to 5 games against T1, and then GenG didn't. So, that's a thing. KT smokes HLE 3-1. Keen and Doran, I like Keen. Cuz and Peanut, a wash. I would say Peanut by default, Chovy, BDD, Chovy. But, you gotta think about this now. This past split has not been a split where the mid laners have been able to really showcase their best, in my opinion. You look at the stats, and the stats indicate there's not a big gap there. Chovy very uncharacteristically changing his style to more of a facilitator role, helping pays. But that's the thing. So in the bot lane, KT with aiming in the hands, I just give them the advantage. So we'll see how this series goes. I can see it going either way. We're looking at the best teams in the world this weekend. But right now, I have KT over GenG. And then second and first, JDG and T1. And, I mean, T1 aren't going to fall out. T1 beat GenG. Someone's got to beat T1 again. That's what happened last time. That what happened last spring. T1 ain't falling out until they lose. And, I mean, I'm not a T1 fan, despite what, I mean, me saying that they have to lose to drop where other teams don't necessarily have to do that. It's just a thing where they just have too good of players, right? And so does JDG. We're looking at the two all-star teams are first and second. And, I mean, we'll see how JDG does tomorrow against BLG. I think it could go either way. I mentioned in the roundup, I think that it is a situation where JDG could come out flat, and then some people are going to say, oh, look, JDG was always bad. Look at them choking. And I can just see it now. Choking, fraud, disappointment, you know, just like all these terms, and it's like it can be so easily explained by JDG comes out flat. JDG struggled. JDG ate the wrong food that day. Like, it's weird. The league community is so hyperbolic and silly sometimes. So we'll see how that goes. In T1, we'll see how they do this weekend against the winner of GenG. KT T1 already locked in MSI. They're a super good team. I am a massive Keria fan. I don't hide that. I think Keria is the best player in the world. So, excuse me. Beating GenG soundly. Good for them. But that's it for the not the roundup. Thank you. It's been a long video. That's it for the power rankings. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a supporter. And thank you for watching.